Hey there, my name's Curtis Lucas and you're watching Empire Building. In this episode, we're going to be talking about the one thing that could send Bitcoin back to new all-time highs, despite what is happening in the broader markets. This is the one thing that could decouple Bitcoin from the broader tech sector and bring about a brand new bull market that could send us to unthinkable highs. And that is, of course, the Bitcoin spot ETF. Now, I know that this is something that we've all been waiting for. This is something that has been talked about ever since I got into this. It's been 5 years since then, and we still don't have one. Application after application after application is consistently denied by the SEC. And their MO is always the same. They delay as long as they can and then deny. And the reasons they give are always the same. Insufficient consumer investor protections and lack of safeguards against manipulation. But this argument is wearing thin now, considering they have approved Bitcoin futures ETFs, which of course are based on the same underlying asset. So that argument isn't going to work that much longer. And this is exactly the case being made by Grayscale, which is currently the largest institutional holder of Bitcoin in the world. Most recently, the SEC rejected 2 additional Bitcoin spot ETFs that were applied for by NYDIG and Global X. For a while now, I've had my suspicions or theories that perhaps we could be getting close to a surprise approval, because I thought it could be potentially possible that Grayscale might actually have a chance here, and it had been delayed. Originally, there was supposed to be a decision back in December, and also prior to that. So it's again the same MO where they delay until they cannot delay any longer, and then they reject. That is exactly what they did with NYDIG and Global X. But there's some very interesting information that was included in this article, and we're going to get into that. This time, the SEC chair, which would be Gary Gensler, says that he hints at no spot Bitcoin ETFs yet, but cites careful consideration for future. And then the article goes on to mention Grayscale. As crypto ETF applications from other firms are still in the pipeline, at least one company is taking more of an initiative to seemingly put pressure on regulators, following the SEC delaying its ruling on whether to approve Grayscale converting its Bitcoin trust into a spot BTC ETF. The asset manager launched a campaign calling on U.S. investors to submit comments to the SEC. The regulator is expected to reach a decision on the ETF by July 6th. So it's been delayed substantially, all the way to the middle of the year.
The time is now. It's unfortunate, but to date, the SEC has only approved Bitcoin futures-based ETFs and has continued to deny spot Bitcoin ETFs from coming to the US market. As an investor, you have a unique opportunity to have your voice heard. The SEC opens up a 240-day window where you can submit a comment letter in support of or citing concerns over GBTC's conversion into an ETF. We at Grayscale will continue to put the full resources of our firm behind this initiative, but it's important that you have your voice heard as well, and the SEC encourages it.
The Bitcoin ETF review process is a great example of our democratic process at work. These are difficult and important questions, and the SEC wants to hear from you. So we encourage investors, Bitcoin proponents, and the broader community to submit comment letters into the SEC. This is a great opportunity to have your voice heard about whether you believe the US markets are ready for spot Bitcoin ETFs.
There are hundreds and thousands of GBTC investors out there, and the SEC is there to protect you. They're meant to serve you, and they want to know what you think. This is your chance to let them hear your voice.
If you want to submit a comment letter, please visit grayscale.com or follow Grayscale on any of our social media accounts.
On their Twitter page, and I'll leave a link to this down in the description, they tell you exactly what you need to do if you want to contribute to this campaign. And for those of you that think that these ETFs are really no big deal, because if anybody wanted to buy Bitcoin, why don't they just really buy Bitcoin? But the difference is an ETF is something that is regulated. And as such, it can be traded inside registered accounts. There are billions upon billions of dollars locked up in registered accounts. Retirement accounts, tax-free savings accounts. These accounts cannot trade Grayscale. They cannot hold that security because it trades over the OTC market. So that's a massive pool of capital that has no access to this space without an ETF. Here in Canada, I could do it all I want, but we have a much smaller pool of capital here. In the United States, it is massive. So yes, this is an extremely big deal. Not to mention the fact that once it does acquire that status of being able to be traded under an ETF, that is a massive signal to institutions that this is safe to own. But I'm not making any predictions as to whether or not this will actually get approved. I think there's a very high likelihood that it will probably get denied. But here's where there's a silver lining, because here in Canada, as I mentioned, we already have a Bitcoin ETF. We've got 4 or 5 of them. We even have Ethereum ETFs. But it's not like it was so simple here.
Similar to what happened in Canada, many people don't know the story, but 3iQ actually went through a very, very similar process back in 2019, filing for the first exchange-traded Bitcoin product, which was denied, and that process, that ruling had to be challenged in order to...
It's a fairly strongly worded letter, wasn't it?
yeah. And that had to be challenged in order to win that battle and get the product approved.
And this is also what Grayscale has signaled that is their intention. If the SEC choose to deny their filing, they have formally notified them in a letter that if their application is denied, they will appeal that ruling and sue the SEC. So I would not be surprised that that type of action could actually work. It worked in Canada. But either way, no matter what, this eventuality is essentially inevitable. There will be a Bitcoin spot ETF one day, and it will lead to another bull market. I don't know when it's going to happen, but it's going to happen. Maybe it takes another 2 years. Who knows? But it will happen. Mark my words. And this is why staying invested is probably the best choice rather than trying to predict what actually is going to be the next catalyst. It might be the spot ETF, or maybe it's something else entirely. We don't know. But I'll say this, it is very reassuring to know that we didn't already have this ETF come out and then enter a bear market. It gives us a major catalyst to look forward to. And in the meantime, continue to build those positions little by little. And honestly, the longer we can sustain a bear market means the bigger and the more balanced position we get to develop as we continue to cost average. At least that's the way I see it. That's it for this one. Now let's get back to empire building.